Hi everybody, today I'm going to talk about hard squash, mainly zucchini and yellow squash, and how to make sure you don't end up with hard squash, that you end up with easy to cut squash, easy to use for cooking, and easy to use for baking. Hi everybody, it's Robbie from Southern California, and it's quite warm today. Today I only want to talk about one thing, because I've had a few people ask me this question, and I used to think about it too. Why on zucchini and even yellow squash do you sometimes end up with really hard squash? You know, the fruit's really hard, you go to cut it, and whether it's big or small, especially when they get a little bit of size to them, they're really hard. Think of zucchini as a watermelon with meat to it. What you need to do is to make sure your zucchini plants, especially in warm weather, are getting a lot of water. They may droop, like today they're drooping in the heat, but they're going to pop up in the evening when the sun goes down. So what you have to do is make sure you're giving them a lot of water. If you don't give them a lot of water, then you're going to end up with fruit that is really hard. You can still use it. Sometimes it might get bitter, but really rarely. It just gets really hard to cut. But if you keep it well watered, you should not have any problems, and you shouldn't leave it on that long like I did. This is a little big. I've got to get this one off. This is in my chair garden and it's massive. The thing is, it is getting a lot of water. So that thing is going to be really soft to cut into, great to cook, no matter what I want to do, whether I want to make dessert, whether I want to make dinner with it. It's going to be great because I am really watering very well. Now, when I say I water well, if you're watering in the ground, if your plant is in the ground, you've got to make sure it's getting water. Because if it gets away from your plant, and if it's running in another direction, let's say you've got gophers or moles or even insects, they will make a trail, and you think you're watering your zucchini in the ground, and I do have some in the ground down there now. You've got to make sure that the plant roots are getting the water, especially in the summer when it's really, really hot during the day. If they're not getting the water that they need, you'll end up with hard fruit because it won't be able to pull the water in. It needs a lot of water. In totes, I don't have that problem. And the reason I don't is here in Southern California, we're quite warm. So I keep the holes on the totes up, about an inch, maybe even 2 inches sometimes. So there's always a reservoir of water, and doing it that way, the roots can go all the way down to the bottom of the totes, and they can suck up the water that they need. That's why almost all my squash are always really soft to cut and easy to use. And I can take that great big zucchini and I can make that into pickles. And somebody asked me, how can you make a big one in the pickles? They're so hard. They shouldn't be hard. When you pick them fresh, if you're giving them enough water, it should be just as soft as a small one. So that's kind of like the big secret, is keeping enough water for it. That's why I love my totes, because with the totes, these always have water. You see that it drips down, and I come out here with the dipper and I water my plants, and I always make sure there is some sort of water to it. There's a lot of different things you can do if you're not going to be home all day. You could take a jar, a plastic jar, let's say you had some fruit juice or an old Coke bottle, fill it with water and make like one hole on the bottom and just sit it in there, and you will get a slow drip all day watering the roots of your plants. The other thing is, see how droopy this is? I'm not going to touch it. I know this plant has got enough water. Believe you me, it's water. It's been dropping water on the bottom. But the problem is, it's so hot today that by nature, the plant is drawing the water back, probably protecting the fruit on there as well as the flowers and new fruit that's coming and the roots. So it's pulling the water out. As soon as the sun goes down, it will pop back up because there's plenty of water there, and the plant will be bright. This one's covered. So this one, and it's smaller. Behind me, this one you can see because of my little sun sail I made, or a sunshade, whatever you want to call it. It's staying quite, up there, the leaves, because it's got sunshade all day. And again, my totes in here have plenty of water. So if you're having an issue with your squash, your summer squash, like your zucchini or your yellow squash, and they're hard, Because I had that one year. I tried to grow yellow squash, and I took them in. They were hard as a rock, and they were small because I didn't get enough water to them, and they were in an area where they weren't getting enough water. I thought they were, but the water was running away from it. So just make sure you're getting enough water to your squash, and you shouldn't have any problems with your summer squash when you pick them and bring them in, and then you can peel them if you want or use the skin, whatever you want. But water is going to be the issue if you've got hard squash. So that's it. So I wanted to give you that little tip, is make sure you're giving them enough water. And if you're growing in totes and you're in a very warm area, maybe the next time you make your totes, make sure the holes are up a little bit and layer. By putting in pots, there's always water under pots. You know how you mulch? You know how you mulch and put your wood chips or dried leaves, or you can put grass clippings if you know there's no chemicals in there or anything. Whatever you want to do is mulch. Well, pots on the top is also a mulch. This is keeping water underneath for the plant. So if it dried out here, it would go underneath. You don't want to cover the whole thing. Your plant needs to breathe. The soil wants to breathe. But the point is, you can put pots throughout your whole thing. Even this. This is a type of mulch. It's damp under there. I've got this here because I'm going to grow some plants right in here. But this is now layering, and this is also creating moisture for the tomato plant that looks beautiful because it's always got water under pots. Remember, it's always damp because it can't evaporate, can't go anywhere, so it stops, and then the plants that are in there will send their roots under the pots. So that's another way of mulching to keep your soil damp for your plants. So you got hard squash, make sure you're watering more, and just make sure that your plants are getting enough water, especially when they're fruiting. And sometimes it might be better to pick your zucchini or your yellow squash earlier in the morning when it's got all the moisture in it. But you know what, you can still pick it anytime you want, but you'll get a better fruit sometimes when you pick it in the morning, or even after the sun goes down. If it pops back up, it's pretty good to pick then too, because I come out here a lot of times in the evening, last minute, to make something for dinner. So I hope I've given you a tip if your zucchini's been a little bit hard. With that, have a great day, and don't forget to eat what you grow. And I gotta get that thing off. I think I'll wait till the sun goes down a little bit. Have a great day, and don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye, everybody.